day, friends. So I had quite a day today. You know, I continue to trudge along in this massive arranging project. And man, I'm doing the opening number right now, and it is a bear. It's the biggest thing I've ever had to arrange. Super fun. It's really fun to see something of that size and scope come under control within ultimately a pretty small band. And actually, you know, what I'm designing feels like it's going to actually basically reflect the full score. Not quite the full score, but a lot of it. So that's super fun. I had a really interesting experience this morning. You know, I've been doing my practice from Madeline of reflecting on something sad before I meditate in the mornings. And that's been such a powerful practice. Oh my God, it's been just so, it really sets up that practice in a very different way than I have customarily meditated. It's the kind of thing that I would have thought was weird, and if it hadn't come to me in the course of a lesson, in the way that it did, with Madeline in the way that it did, I think I would have been suspicious of that advice. I would have thought, why think of something sad before I meditate? That doesn't make any sense. That's not why I'm meditating. How is me getting myself sad related to me getting myself connected? But as I've said before on this post, you know, and as I keep experiencing again and again, there is an open-heartedness, that there's an inherent sadness within that open-heartedness. When my heart really genuinely just opens, it's like there's a kind of like pang in the heart that just is there as well. And a lot of times when I put my focus on that, when I allow my mind, it's not that I'm trying to. I don't usually have to scour my experience for things that give me that gentle softness, but just putting my awareness on that sort of opens me up. And you know, one thing. So this morning, I was reflecting a little bit on last night. Yesterday, I had a long day, long kind of like heavy day of work. And I got home and I put Annalise to bed. And as I was putting her to bed, you know, we're doing so much moving around right now. We're going to different hotels. She's in and out of one hotel and on to the next one. She hasn't been in her own room in almost 2 weeks. So she gets, whenever we go to a new hotel, which yesterday we went to a new hotel. It was one we'd been in before, but we'd just been in a different hotel for a night. So it was kind of like the first day back. She's a little she just fights bedtime. She doesn't want, whoever's putting her to bed, she doesn't want that person to leave. But she also does this at home. She pulls the same thing at home, and she can be just as tenacious at home as she can at a hotel. And so there's a level on which she's kind of exploiting it. She's kind of using this experience to her advantage, because it's like she knows that we know that she has an excuse for kind of feeling this way, so we're kind of a little more gentle on it. So then she like really leans on it. And so a little of that was happening, and I was getting, you know, a little frustrated with her, and I found myself, I noticed that, and I didn't push her too hard, and she ultimately ended up asking for Katie anyway, so it was out of my hands. But there's a part of me, whenever I can't be a serene pool of patience and support, there's a part of me that always goes, oh no, how could you lose your cool with Annalise, or how could you let yourself tilt into frustration? And I mean, on some level, I'm not trying to be a perfectionistic parent, but I'm tracking what puts me there. What state am I in before I get to frustration, or kind of, a place where I could potentially be short with her. And no surprise, doing a lot of real heavy, all mind-based work puts me there, I mean, way more reliably than my average workday. And there's this sense in which I'm, it's just another feature of the way that I'm working right now, and of what's going on in my life, that I'm observing this kind of shift, this like, okay, what did I do today? And if I end up at Annalise's bedtime being in a hurry to get her to go to sleep, why? What's my agenda? What do I think I'm headed for? And it's always some mind-based thing. It's always like, well, I want to get more sleep so that I can get up early and get to work, or I need to send this email, so I just want to get bedtime over with so that I can send this email and get it out before the end of the day. It's always something from the mind. It's never that there's actually not enough time. That's never the actual case. But settling into that space of just knowing that whatever happens is right, and whatever she needs is what I am here to give, that being in this kind of frenetic mind space compromises that. And so, again, this is not to like diagnose or even really criticize myself. It's just an observation. Like, this is how I get there. And so, because it's kind of like, if I've felt ever since she was born, basically, I've had this intuitive sense that she was going to demand of me just enough of my time and attention and focus that to establish that she is the number one priority. Her job is to establish that she's the number one priority in my life. And once I give her that feeling, once I demonstrate that through the way that I pay attention to her and the way that I interact with her, she relaxes and she gives me a lot of my time back. She doesn't actually have to hold on to me the entire time. But the more engaged I am in something that's drawing my psyche, pulling my mind over here, do this, get, make progress over here, the harder it is for me to be genuinely just present with her. And so that's just, I'm registering it, because there's also a kind of, it illustrates the cost of that type of work, and I can see, I mean, it's a cliche that, the dad who works so hard loses touch with his kids. I mean, it's not really, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a contemporary cliche, because I don't think it's where we're at as a culture right now, but it's so easy to understand how that mechanism works when I experience it within myself, when I experience that mind space kind of revving up of my mind and focus in a certain way, and that really drawing me in, and then I witness where I go and what happens just in my like moment to moment interactions with Annalise. All of a sudden she's like, wait, where the hell are you? Come back here now, be with me now, and it's like, and then this tension creeps in, and the really, the key of it all is, at the end of the day, she's also a toddler who's testing boundaries, and that her testing boundaries is not, it's not healthy for her to simply win every boundary testing battle. She's actually expecting, and she actually needs boundaries to be imposed. She needs me to say, this is the limit. But I can't read her or the circumstances clearly if my focus is drawn somewhere else. I can only read that. Because when I impose those boundaries effectively, I do it from a place of being fully with her, 100% present with her, completely grounded, completely in the moment with her, and then I can see where she is and what she needs, and I can see where because ultimately the boundary is arbitrary. Ultimately, the boundary doesn't matter if the boundary's here or there or there or there. The boundary is ultimately completely arbitrary. The boundary serves the function of being a teaching tool for her. There may be times when the boundary also affects, my life and Katie's life, and it's part of our relationship that Annalise learned that too, that boundaries are boundaries because other people also have needs, and she needs to receive that. But all of that calculus of like where that goes, and the sensitivity to where the right place is to draw that, and where to hold really firm, where to give, all of that gets compromised when my mind is like revving up and going to my, and just in this, basically I'm somewhere else. So I think it's part of the cost of this work that I slip out of that state of total connection. And I think, again, as far as spiritual practice goes, I consider that an instructive moment. I consider this an instructive moment for myself. It's not trying to critique myself necessarily, but I'm trying to observe this and say, okay, well, so be really conscious of this. Let's just get really aware of how that works, and how to balance that out. How can I employ my capacity for connection and for groundedness and for expansion to withstand ultimately a very challenging job and a very demanding set of circumstances where I can't. It's not like I can just not do the work. So it's not like the answer is, oh, well, then just don't do the work. That's not the answer. The answer is actually, let's settle in and see where I can bring myself back to connection and consciousness as frequently as possible. And man, when I have my daughter, when I feel her needing me that way, there's no better motivation to do that work. There's nothing in the world more important than doing that work. So that's where I am, people. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you. I love you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.